Your exhaustion is not a failure of your character, it is a failure of the system. When you are hit with an incredibly difficult crisis, a medical diagnosis, a family emergency, or the onset of burnout, your brain basically becomes hijacked. It triggers the avoidance reflex, which is an old survival mechanism designed to keep you safe. But in the modern world that we live in today, this instinctual retreat is a trap. It creates what I call the hollow workforce. This is where leaders are physically present in the boardroom, but psychologically absent. By staying in the role while emotionally withdrawn, you begin paying the inauthenticity tax. You are burning massive amounts of energy to mask your struggle, maintaining a professional facade while your internal reserves are empty. The cost of this mask is a silent burnout that erodes decision-making and performance. The natural impulse is to take a step back, to shrink your world until it is manageable, but there is a more sustainable path to take, one that doesn't require you to take a step back, but to fundamentally re-engineer how you show up. To navigate this, we must shift from a mechanical fix to a biological system approach. You are not a machine that needs a part replaced, but you do require growth to survive. This, in essence, is called a post-traumatic growth. Adversity, when managed strategically, becomes the catalyst for a deeper leadership framework. We build this by using psychological capital in a number of capacities, including hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. These are not fixed personality traits, they are psychological muscles. However, grand initiatives usually fail because they rely on motivation, which doesn't work when you're already exhausted. When you are depleted, asking for a 20-minute meditation is like asking a marathon runner to sprint another mile at the finish line. We don't need a grand gestures, we need a structure that supports the signs of the crisis while you regain your balance. This support begins with the behavioral signs of approach goals. When you move toward a fear, it creates a radically different response than retreating from it. So imagine being in a helicopter. When a pilot faces a sudden loss of lift, the instinct is to pull back on the stick, basically to avoid the ground and not crash. But pulling back can actually cause a stall. Survival actually requires a counterintuitive micro adjustment to regain airflow. This is the fog behavior model in action. So behavior occurs when motivation, ability, and a prompt converge. When your motivation is at rock bottom, we don't ask for a step back or a leap forward. We make the ability so small that success is guaranteed. We use micro challenges, that's behaviors that take less than 30 seconds, to bypass the brain's resistance. By achieving these tiny wins, you trigger something that fog calls shine, the chemical release of dopamine associated with authentic pride. This success momentum rebuilds your self-efficacy, rewiring your brain to recognize that you are still a person who can navigate the storm, one 30-second increment at a time. To sustain this, we address the high voltage switch. As a high performer, you are constantly flipping between the intense pressure of the office and the emotional complexity of a high-needs personal life. This transition is where the cortisol spikes occur and where the inauthenticity tax is most expensive. This is why we implemented the PULSE protocol. The P stands for pause. This is where you anchor a restorative behavior to an existing routine. So for example, after I put the key in the door, that's the anchor, I simply take one conscious deep breath. This is the micro challenge. This isn't abstract mindfulness. It is a biological reset button. The U stands for unmask. The mental load of secrecy is a primary driver of ego depletion. By strategically unmasking, being authentic about the struggle, you stop paying that inauthenticity tax. You reclaim the energy previously spent doing this and redirect it toward high-level decision making. You can reframe this daily through something called the Maui habit. So upon waking, you say, it's going to be a great day. And if your cynicism rejects that, you can add the word somehow, so that it becomes, it's going to be a great day somehow. This tiny frame and behavior shifts the brain from a state of dread to a state of possibility, protecting your cognitive reserves before the day even begins. The idea here is not to shrink your career to fit your current capacity. What we really want is for you to expand your psychological capacity to hold that complexity of both your professional and personal reality. You cannot engineer your way out of trauma, but you can grow through it by regulating your biology rather than fighting it.